Imagine moving into your dream home only to discover that something isn't quite right. That every creak and crackle in the night sends chills down your spine. You brush it off as the house settling, an old structure finding its footing again. But deep down, a seed of doubt begins to grow, a creeping unease that something else is at play. Tonight, I bring you 3 terrifying true stories of people who bought a new house, only to find out they were not alone. Stories of ordinary people thrust into extraordinary bone-chilling circumstances. But beware, these stories are not for the faint-hearted. Our first story comes from a woman named Emily. Picture this. Emily and her family have just moved into a beautiful old house, the kind with character, with stories etched into its very foundation. At first, everything seems perfect. The move is smooth, the house is beautiful, and the family is excited for this new chapter. But then, things start to shift. It begins subtly, almost imperceptibly. Every morning, Emily finds her dishes moved around. Sometimes they're simply in a different spot on the drying rack, other times put away in the wrong cabinets. It's unsettling, but Emily chalks it up to her own forgetfulness, the chaos of unpacking. But then it escalates. One morning, Emily walks into the bathroom, the remnants of sleep still clinging to her. As she reaches for the light switch, she notices something in the corner of her eye. On the foggy bathroom mirror, a hazy silhouette stands out. It's a handprint, a single, solitary handprint, pressed against the glass as if someone had leaned against it, leaving behind a ghostly residue. But here's the thing, the house was empty. Emily was the first one awake, just like every other morning. Panic starts to claw at her throat. She checks every room, every closet, every nook and cranny of the house, but there's no explanation. No sign of forced entry, no open windows, no footprints. It's as if the handprint materialized out of thin air. She tries to wipe it away, but it remains, a stubborn stain on the mirror's surface. Emily had felt a growing sense of unease ever since they moved in, a feeling of being watched, of eyes following her every move. She'd hear whispers at night, faint and indistinct, like the rustling of leaves just beyond the edge of hearing. Footsteps in the hallway when no one was around, a fleeting shadow disappearing around the corner. But the handprint on the mirror was the final straw. It was a tangible sign, a chilling confirmation that she wasn't alone in the house. The fear, once a whisper, was now a scream in her ears. Emily and her family moved out shortly after. They couldn't bear the thought of spending another night in that house, under the weight of unseen eyes and the chilling touch of the unknown. To this day, the mystery of the handprint remains unsolved, a chilling reminder that some houses hold secrets best left undisturbed. Our second story takes us into the world of Mike, a man who found himself living alone in his new house. The house was old, the kind that creaked and groaned with every shift of the wind. It had charm, a certain allure that drew Mike in. But that charm soon morphed into something far more sinister. It started with the creaking floorboards, the sounds of the house settling. Mike, new to the home, dismissed it as just that, the house finding its equilibrium. But the sounds persisted, growing more frequent, more deliberate. Then came the knocks. Every night, without fail, at the stroke of midnight, a knock would echo through the house, a sharp, distinct rap on the front door, loud enough to startle Mike from his sleep. He'd rush downstairs, heart pounding, adrenaline surging, only to find the doorway empty. No one in sight, no cars driving away, no explanation for the chilling sound that had just shattered the silence. Night after night, the pattern repeated. The knock, the frantic dash to the door, the empty street greeting him like a cruel joke. Mike, a logical and practical man, began to question his sanity. Was he imagining things? Was the stress of the move getting to him? He installed security cameras, hoping to catch the culprit, to find a rational explanation for the nightly disturbances. But the cameras offered no answers, only more questions. The footage from those nights was always corrupted, the images distorted, the timestamps scrambled. It was as if some unseen force wanted to keep its presence hidden, shrouded in a veil of technological glitches. The knocks grew louder, more insistent, as if whatever was on the other side of the door was growing impatient, its presence becoming more demanding. It wasn't just at the door anymore. Mike began hearing footsteps coming from the attic. Heavy, deliberate footsteps pacing back and forth above his head. One night, unable to bear the torment any longer, he grabbed a flashlight and cautiously made his way up to the attic door. His hand trembled as he reached for the doorknob. It turned with a groan and the door swung open, revealing a pitch-black space. Mike flicked on his flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness. The attic was empty, but the smell of cigarette smoke hung heavy in the air, thick and stale, as if someone had been there moments before. Mike's blood ran cold. He knew he wasn't alone in the house. Something else was there, something unseen, something that communicated through knocks and footsteps and the lingering scent of tobacco. A week later, Mike moved out. He couldn't take it anymore. The constant fear, the unexplainable events. He left the house behind, but the experience stayed with him, a chilling reminder that some mysteries are best left unsolved. Chapter 3. The Reflection in the Window. Our final story brings us to Sarah, a woman who had finally achieved her dream of owning her first home. The house was perfect, spacious, quiet, and bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun each evening. It was her sanctuary, her escape from the world. But that sense of peace wouldn't last. It began subtly, with a feeling of unease that settled over Sarah whenever she was alone in the house. A prickling sensation on the back of her neck, the feeling of being watched. She brushed it off as nerves, the anxieties of being a first-time homeowner. One night, however, the unsettling feeling escalated into something far more terrifying. Sarah was sitting by her bedroom window, gazing out at the empty street below. The streetlights cast an orange glow, illuminating the quiet neighborhood. As she looked out, something in the reflection of the window caught her eye. A figure, tall and shadowy, standing directly behind her. Her breath hitched in her throat, her heart pounding against her ribs. She slowly turned her head, expecting to come face to face with an intruder. But the room was empty. She spun back to the window, her heart racing. The figure in the reflection was gone. Had she imagined it? Was it a trick of the light, a figment of her imagination playing on her nerves? She tried to convince herself that was all it was. But a seed of doubt had been planted, and it was growing with each passing moment. The next night, Sarah found herself drawn back to the window. As she peered out at the street below, she saw it again. The figure in the reflection. This time, it was closer, more defined. It seemed to be staring directly at her, its features obscured by the darkness. Panic surged through her. She was frozen in place, her mind struggling to comprehend what her eyes were seeing. She screamed, a primal sound of terror that ripped through the stillness of the night. Sarah scrambled back from the window, her heart pounding in her chest. She ran out of the room, her mind a whirlwind of fear and confusion. She didn't stop running until she was safe in her car, the engine roaring to life, the house receding in the rearview mirror. Sarah never went back to that house. She couldn't bring herself to face whatever it was that she had seen in the reflection of her window. The experience left her shaken, her sense of security shattered. These stories serve as a chilling reminder: no house is truly empty. Sometimes the past follows you home, leaving behind echoes of its presence in the very fabric of the building, and sometimes The things we can't see are the things that haunt us the most. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, it's hard to ignore the strange and unexplainable occurrences that have happened in these new homes. These stories challenge our perception of reality, blurring the line between the known and the unknown. They remind us that there are still mysteries in this world that logic and reason can't explain. Do you believe in haunted houses? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Stay safe and always remember to trust your instincts.